Hello and welcome back to Sonya Maya Psychology. I'm Dr. Sonya Maya, a psychologist, sex therapist, and clinician, and I like to talk about sex, relationships, and psychology. So if you like that kind of content, you know what to do. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn on bell notifications. Today, I want to react to some embarrassing, spicy stories that I found on the internet. Reddit, of all places, has a lot of anonymous stories, and I've done this before. If you want to check out my past videos where I've done it before, feel free to do that. And if you want me to react to your embarrassing story, I'm happy to put another one of those things on my Instagram story where you can anonymously submit your embarrassing story for me to react to, because I love doing videos like these. Without further ado, I'm going to react to these stories and then provide some of my personal and clinical feedback, reactions, etc. I haven't read these stories before, so it'll be like a blind react situation. So yeah, let's get into the first one. This one is a sex/masturbation story, it looks like. So it says, I think nothing can be this embarrassing. I've never shared this story with anyone, so you guys are the first ones to hear it. Please rate the cringe level from 0 to 10. I'll give you a little bit of background. Okay, when I was around 14 to 15 years old, I was a weird kid. Due to discovering and also suppressing my gay sexuality with the background of being raised by a rather prude family where the topic of sex was taboo. That's what I'm trying to change in society. And it's interesting to see this word prude being used, because I remember when I first heard prude, I was like, what the hell is that? I think it was when I was at some Jewish summer camp when I was very young, and they were talking about it in a way that was like, oh, you're a prude. I haven't even heard people use that term recently. I think, from the top of my head, it's like, someone who's like, oh yeah, like you don't like talking about sex, or it's kind of like a negative way to describe vanilla, or just not being interested in sex in general, or like, oh, that kind of thing. I remember it being used as a negative term, but it seems like in this context, this individual had a family that does not feel comfortable talking about sex. So like the opposite of my community type of vibe. On a winter evening, I was dressed in thick, warm clothes and played in the snow outside in our garden. Rolling in the snow, I suddenly got very horny. It's an interesting place to get horny when you have a penis, I built a little snow ass and started humping the ground. So this person built like a snowman, but just like an ass? Huh. Okay, I wonder where this is going. So you built an ass to hump. Okay. This would be good for like fertility, because if you ice your balls, it can help with fertility. But it wouldn't be good for, keeping your hardness, because cold shrivels, makes you smaller temporarily. Anyways, having in mind that I want to be one with nature, our medium-sized tree in the garden caught my attention, and I started embracing and also humping it. That's one way to be one with nature. I noticed a noise but ignored it and went on humping the tree. A few seconds later, I heard the noise again, but this time I noticed somebody was throwing snowballs on the tree. It was my uncle, who had an office above us, and he was working late. He must have witnessed a good deal of my show, but he never said anything. Interesting. Okay, so this person was horny outside in the snow, started humping the snow ass, I guess, and then started humping a tree, and uncle threw snowballs at him. Yeah, interesting one. This person said that they were 14 or 15 years old, and that makes sense, if you think about Big Mouth. I'm going through changes, the intro. Makes sense, but definitely would recommend anyone going through those changes to explore them in a more private place where there might not be anybody witnessing, especially a family member. But you live and you learn. All right, story number 2. My mom walked in my room after school when I was in the middle of blowing my best friend. She was just coming in to drop off some folded clothes she had washed for me. She looked at us while I was going up and down on his D. She placed the clothes on my bureau and walked out. My friend came as she was leaving. He didn't notice her. He was enjoying the BJ, so he was very distracted, didn't get caught off guard, but seems like the mom probably noticed. Awkward. I told him what happened, and we waited a bit before going downstairs. She never said a word about it ever. She asked my friend if he wanted to stay for dinner. As usual, he did. We ate with my mom, dad, and sister. I know she never said a word to my dad either. After that, she always knocked. That's good. She learned her lesson there. She treated my best friend the same after too, like a second mom. We messed around in more private places after that. My parents' RV, the basement, playroom, shed, etc. She was awesome. So it seems like even though this was an awkward moment, it was never talked about, but the mom did not act a certain way afterwards, and the person just was more careful about where they were, having those fun times. But yeah, usually when I read these stories that are embarrassing, it's very common that a family member will walk in without knocking. And it seems like this mom definitely learned her lesson, but was respectful about it. Because, what would you do if you walked in on a family member? Would you just pretend you didn't see anything? I mean, I guess it depends on if you made eye contact, but yeah, super awkward. When I was 10, I was in my room with the door closed. I had a blue gel pen that was pretty much empty, so I took the ink thing out of it and squeezed the rest of the ink on my hard D. Ink on a D, not a good idea. I wanted to see if I could cover my whole dong. I heard my dad talking to my sister in the hallway, and I figured he wasn't going to open my door, so I didn't try to cover up myself or anything. Well, he opens my door and pops his head in to say something, and he sees me sitting at my desk with my blue dick. I've heard of blue balls, but never a blue dick. He's like, "Are you okay? Why is it blue?" And I'm just looking at him speechless for a few seconds, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." He comes in and he's like, "Do we need to go to the hospital?" And then sees the pen and blue fingertips, and he's like, "Oh, what the F are you doing?" And laughed. I was like, "Nothing, go away." Definitely would not recommend putting ink on your situation. But, this is someone who was 10, so it was like, I'm experimenting, I guess. Freshman year in college, came out of the closet and got my first boyfriend. Moving out of the dorms to go home for the summer, my roommate already gone, and we go for the last fuck. He's face down on my bare mattress, and I'm effing away while someone inserts the key into the door and opens it. Too late, I'm coming deep and hard like any 19-year-old. Whoever it was watched the whole thing, then left and closed the door. To this day, I wonder about the person and what they thought. Yeah, that that is definitely awkward and you don't even know who it is. I guess that's kind of better than a family member, but still awkward. All right, here's the next story. I don't know if this counts as masturbation, but it's one of the most humiliating things to ever happen to me. I was 16 at my doctor's for my annual physical. I had developed quite a bit over the previous year. The doctor was checking me for hernias. I got a full erection. Then he retracted my foreskin to check that, and while he was messing around with my dickhead, I ejaculated. Ooh. Oh, and did I mention my mother was sitting 3 feet away? Oh my gosh. That is very unfortunate. I feel bad for the doctor. I wonder how often that happens. Ugh. And he commented, "This is a very, very quiet car ride home." Ugh. That's definitely an embarrassing one. That's more of just like medical experience gone wrong. When I discovered masturbation as a kid, I thought I invented it. Like I was the only person that knew how to because I'd never heard of it. So of course I proceeded to tell all my buddies, cousins, and really any guy that would listen and offered to teach them how with this emoji. When I tried to teach my older cousin, who was about 25, he got a good laugh out of it. That is such like an adolescent thing to happen though. 'Cause you're like,
"Oh wow, did you know that this thing feels good?" Like,
oh my gosh, that's actually pretty funny. I feel like that must happen a lot though. It's like if you don't know and you don't have sex education, which most of us don't have, it's possible that like you're like, wow, I wonder if people know how good it feels to do this, but like no one told you that it's a thing. So you're like, wow, I must have invented this. That makes sense. I developed some elaborate masturbation habits, and I remember reading in my dad's Penthouse magazine about masturbating using a slice of pizza with the cheese and tomato sauce removed. What? Geez, that does not sound like a good idea at all. I waited until my parents were in bed, I thought. Foreshadowing. Forehead shadowing? No. Then cleaned off a slice of pizza and microwaved it for a few seconds so it would be nice and warm. Holy crap. I just had a weird visualization of someone trying to fuck a Hot Pocket and then burning their dick. Anyways, I also took a carrot from the fridge. You can guess where that was supposed to go. I could probably make a few guesses. Then I picked up my mom's hand lotion from the sink and was carrying them all up to my room when my dad saw me. Hand lotion is not a safe lube, by the way, but I know a lot of people use it, but I wouldn't recommend. He looked at me for a second like he was going to ask, "What are you doing?" But then I think he figured it out because he didn't say anything except have a good night. I mean, that's one way to have a pizza party. Because, like, what would someone think if you're carrying a slice of pizza without cheese and sauce and a carrot and lotion? You know, like, that's that seems kind of like potentially obvious. During the pandemic, I can't get out to buy any lube or lotion to masturbate. I used the soap my friend gave me for a week, only to wake up with my dick so dry, painful, and literally peeling. Yeah, do not put soap on your dick. That's a terrible idea. Oh my goodness. I ended up screaming. My whole family entered the room and saw the state of my penis. Sis ends up giving her hydrating aloe gel to prevent it from being too dry. I checked the soap and it has lactic acid on it. So a lot of these stories, whether it's using soap or using a type of lotion that's not healthy, or yeah, the pizza, definitely a bad idea. This is all a recipe for messing up your healthy bacteria levels. You could definitely get an infection, like a yeast infection, for example. I mean, especially with pizza. But yeah, with soap or anything that's just not healthy to be used down there, if you don't use something that's healthy, like especially if you're uncircumcised, but just in general, you want to make sure to use a body safe lube. Coconut oil can be healthy. Sometimes it messes with people's pH, but yeah, soap is a terrible idea, and it can cause irritation, dryness, soreness, the flakiness, like this person said. So yeah, definitely don't use those things. It's better to learn from other people's stories than to be the one that's in that situation. All right, let's react to one more story. This one's bad. While working at a summer camp as a teenager, I fell in love with a co-counselor. We were both such horny, stupid teens who were so into each other, we were super unaware of our surroundings. That happens when you're in the moment. At night, we'd sneak off into an empty tent not too far from the rest of the tents and fuck ferociously, suck each other off, and just overall be so intensely enthralled with touching each other's bodies all night until like 4 a.m. and get 3 hours of sleep and be exhausted the next day. We were so into each other. Yes, I could tell. Unfortunately, we were too young and naive to realize that the lights we used to light up our tent would create a silhouette of us fucking all night. Whoa. I remember this realization hitting me only a couple months after the summer ended and the ferocity had faded, and I could think clearly again. The other tents with campers and our other counselors were feet away from us. I mean, it was very brazen of us to be doing what we were doing, smack dab in the middle of it all, but I'm honestly shocked no one stopped us looking back. Since we did this nearly every night, I'm sure people saw us, but no one ever mentioned it. My lover was loud too. I remember thinking, oh boy, they're moaning very loudly. Like I'm telling you, they're the loudest moaner I fucked to this day. But again, I was too young to think about pausing and say, hey, don't you think we should just be quiet and not wake up everyone? I was just so lost in my own awe and I didn't have the wherewithal. I mean, y'all remember the first time you fell in love, right? In my defense, it's a lot. By the way, after reacting to all these stories, I realized I'm on the gay side of Reddit. So that explains why all of these were related to men effing other men. There's that. I'm happy to react to other types of stories that aren't just, LGBTQ+, but sometimes those are my favorites. That explains, the carrot situation, etc., etc. So yeah, I appreciate when people share about these things, even if it's on Reddit, because, you could be ruminating about it on your own for a long time. But also we can learn from like the sexual fails in terms of like health things that happen. But also we can remember not to barge into people's rooms without knocking and checking in, if you don't want to be the person who's walking in, because I mean it's embarrassing for everyone involved, but it's also really embarrassing for the person who's unintentionally seeing something they don't want to see, especially a family member. I mean, with a roommate or just like a random person at college, it's not as awkward. I hope you enjoyed these story reactions and maybe learned something new with some of the sex ed that's intertwined in there. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn on bell notifications, and I will see you next week for another Sonya Maya psychology video. Everyone make pleasurable decisions and decisions because you deserve it.